Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And anyone walking by, if you want to learn about farm management and how to make the best decisions with your livestock data that you're collecting, please come sit down. And I'm about to run through a little slideshow for you all. We'll jump straight in. So I work at Agriwebb, and Agriwebb is a livestock management platform. We help farmers unlock the potential of their data that they're collecting on their farms. So my agenda today, we will jump through to a bit of an intro. I'll jump into some ways that we can identify profit opportunities using our farm data. We can improve our culling decisions, prepare for dry times, and optimise our grazing using Agriwebb. So my name is Izzy Hardwick. I'm a customer success manager here at Agriwebb. And what that means is I help our farmers and our larger family farms and corporates get the most out of the data that they're collecting on Agriwebb. So I'm their go-to gal. They can call me and ask any of their questions. I do a fair bit of training. So I'm on the road a fair bit, getting on farm and getting in front of our farmers on a daily basis. So that's a photo of me below in Rockhampton, and then my family and a client in Jugeong as well. So I'm just based in Jugeong, which means I'm close to this area and I quite enjoy living out on farm. It also means that I get the opportunity to connect with farmers at the pub, at the supermarket, but I also host producer groups in the region. So I'm here to assist all of our farmers get the most out of their data that they're collecting on the property. So that's a bit about me. So we'll jump straight in. So the purpose of today is to talk you guys through how we can be more efficient and profitable and make better decisions. Agriwebb's a tool that it's going to help you make better decisions. We're not here to tell you how to farm. We're here to support you with better decision making. So giving you all the data that you need to make the best decision for your operation. So we look after your livestock management. So that's your weights, your feed records, your treatments for your audit and compliance requirements, your movement, how long have the cattle been in those pastures for, your fertility and your deaths. We also help you with your pasture management. So we look after your stocking rates, your chemical inputs, your harvests and yields, your forages, fertilisers and tillage. And finally, we're starting to delve more into the workforce management piece. We work offline, we help you track expenses and costs, we look after your inventory and your sales and purchases, and we also have a tasks function in the calendar. So it really helps with a full management solution of your operation, not just the livestock side as well. We offer an individual system, which you can see on the screen here today, and we help you track your individual animals across your farm. Perfect for our commercial breeding of the cattle, or trading. You can get really interesting weight insights, or your basic stud information as well. So my first topic today I'm going to walk through is identifying profit opportunities. How can we use the data that we're collecting on our farms to make better decisions moving forward? So this example here is we're comparing our purchase information. So this example is looking at the animals at an individual level, but you can also do it at a mob basis. So when we look at the slide here, I'm going to have to jump over to here to make sure I can see it properly. But what we can see is the vendor name. So all of these cattle have been purchased from different vendors. We can see our purchase price. How much did we purchase each of these animals for? We can also then compare their purchase weights if we were collecting that, how many days they've spent on farm, and their actual daily gains. Now you can see here from these vendors, we haven't had very successful actual daily gains. They're all quite negative. So what we can make from these weight collections in our data here is that potentially we might not buy from that vendor again. We haven't had any success. We've had poor average daily gains and maybe not as much weight gain as expected. So we might stay away from our vendors that don't give us the best results on farm. We can also then compare maybe the paddocks for the other vendors actually performed better. And we can also see that those vendors have given us a positive average daily gain. So we have different ways you can look at your information, but if you're collecting your purchase prices, you're weighing your cattle or animals on a regular basis, and you've got your weight records going through the time, and then you've also got your sale information, Agriwebb can help collate reports so that you guys can sit down and go through the data that you've collected and make the best decision for your operation. So whether that be, my goodness, that producer that we bought from for that one time down the road had absolutely amazing stock. They've performed really well. But then we bought from this reputable brand that we thought was going to be all the best, and we spent a lot of money on those animals, but they didn't give us the results that we expected. So by collating this information, it puts the power back into your hands to make the best decision for your operation in terms of your purchasing, who you're purchasing from, how many, and you can make better decisions the next year round. Does anyone have any questions on that one? So the question was just around the management practices of those animals. So did we put them on a certain management practice or their operations in terms of what we're feeding them, what paddocks we did? Yes, we have other reports for that as well. So you can take a look at this report, our sales and purchases and our lifetime performance report on Agriwebb and go, oh, those ones performed exceptionally better than the other ones I did. What did I do differently with that mob of cattle or that individual that caused that difference? So you can go back and look at your grazing reports. You might need to look at your feed records. Maybe you treated them with something different. So you can go through and have a look at those different reports. So we just open the doors for this information and give you all the power and opportunity to deep dive into specific reasons. So that's identifying profit opportunities on Agriwebb. So we're going to talk about improving our culling decisions because obviously that's quite important. So this one's a mob record. We use this as our fertility report. So this is culling based on fertility records that we're gathering on farm. So recording all your breeding activities year on year, so joining, scanning, marking and weaning, you're actually able to get a really interesting report that spits out for you to understand what was my scanning percentage from my joined, what was my marking percentage from my pregnant, and what was my weaning percentage from my marked animals. So across the life cycle of your mobs, you're able to see actually how they're performing across the fertility scale. And from this data, you're able to decide, well, next year, the animals I thought were really productive because they looked good in the paddock actually weren't very productive. So then what you can come through here is make the decision based on the number of joined and how many were scanned and the pregnant. You can make a decision around which mobs you're going to keep and which mobs you're going to start purchasing some replacements for. Or maybe you might want to keep a few more lambs because you're going to get rid of some of your older ewes. So we are not giving you the answers. We are giving you the data for everyone on farm to make the best decision with the information that they're gathering. This is a look at it at an individual level. So obviously we have the two platforms. This is quite helpful for our cattle breeders that are out there. Again, same recording of all the breeding activities year on year. We can look at, should I use these specific bulls again? And did that genetic pairing work? Did I get enough of my pregnant all the way through to calving? Did they last until weaning? What was the percentages there? How did that look for that individual animal? Which heifers or cows should I cull? We're actually going through this decision at the moment on my family farm. We've got the scanning information. We're about to bring them in for a bit of AI program. We're going to wet dry them. So that way we can look at back and go, was this one pregnant and now she's dry? Right. What are we going to do with that one? Gives you the tools, crush side, to make that decision in the palm of your hand, which is quite helpful when you're narrowing down your mobs to get those best genetic pairings and the best production there. Are all my animals getting pregnant every year, but I only want to keep my cows that are giving me the best performing calves? Yes, okay, great. We've gone through this activity. Everyone's pregnant, everyone's produced a calf, but which one is producing my heaviest offspring? So that way you can have a look and go, we'll get rid of my lighter producers and we'll only keep our most productive heifers and cows. So this one's really interesting. Obviously the individual system requires a fair bit of data collection and requires a little bit of input. With Agriwebb or any data really tool on farm, you get out what you put in. So if you're not putting in all that information, you're going to have a really rough time pulling out some of these insights. So whatever data tool you choose to use on your property, you get out what you put in. So we always recommend putting in as much information on time as possible. So preparing for dry times. I don't like talking about dry times, but they happen. And we all need to make sure that we're prepared in the best way that we know how as farmers. So how can we do this with Agriwebb? This is my family farm. We did an experiment this year with our individual weaners. We pulled our heaviest weaners off in December and we left the rest on until about April, I think, or March. And the reason that we did this is because my family have not been through a dry time. We actually don't know how much our weaners would need to be fed. We don't know how much it would cost us. We don't know the best routine of what to feed them to get the best result. So what we did is we put some into Agriwebb and we labelled them as our early weaners, and then we had our heavies and groups down the bottom. What we did here is we were able to see, this is a feed report, we're able to see how much dollars and cents we spent feeding our early weaners, so that when we do get to a dry time, we have a rough estimate of how much it's going to cost us to lock up our weaners at an earlier basis. How much do we need to feed them? What do we need to feed them? We're able to see that information really, really clearly. And you can see down the bottom, some of our weaners that got stayed on mum a bit longer cost us a whole lot less. So when we go to sell those animals later in the year, it'll be really clear which ones have cost us more money and which ones haven't. It was really important for us to run this experiment because you need to know these numbers when it's time for a drought. You need to understand how much is it going to cost to pull my calves off. Do I need to destock, run less animals in a dry time because it's actually going to cost me more to feed them more? Again, Agriwebb's not going to give you all the secret sauce for that information, but we can give you as much data as possible to make the best decision on your operation. So whatever works for you, we give you the information and the insights so that you can make those decisions on your farm. We also help you optimise your grazing. So there's lots of different ways that we do this. We just released a rotational planner and a grazing chart at Agriwebb, and that was all based on customer feedback to get you guys the information that you need to plan better on the farm. So this is a nice map here. This is the demo farm to show you an insight of how many days rest each of those paddocks have had. We have a very visual insight way that you can see on your map really quickly how much rest has each of my pastures had. Do I need to give them more or do I need to give them less? What's happening on my farm? So in order to optimise your grazing, Agriwebb gives you a bunch of different ways to do that. So to get accurate animal units by using the body weight of the animals to calculate the stocking load on individuals. If you do a weigh record, Agriwebb will automatically update your DSE records. So that way you guys can know exactly, more accurately, how many, what is your stock load on the farm, what is your DSE and everything going on there. So if using your age classes on Agriwebb or any system, you need to make sure that you update your stocking units when your animals are lactating because it changes. If you just set it and forget it, you're not going to have the most accurate reading of that information on your farm. What do I mean by that? Is we have a record on Agriwebb. You can go in, click your DSE. I'm going to update it for all my pregnant ewes at their last trimester or they've just lambed. Pop that in and that then carries across to your grazing record so you're getting an accurate number of your stock load on farm. We also have the feed on offer available so you can go out and enter those records into Agriwebb. We have a pasture growth rate and set the minimum FOO. When you do that information, which is, I also want to preface, is quite advanced in Agriwebb, but a lot of people are getting more interested into this area at the moment. Once you do that information, we can help you understand, based on the feed on offer, your pasture growth rate, and your set minimum FOO. We will then also help you calculate how many grazing days left in that paddock do you have based on the stocking load of that paddock. So that grazing days remaining will get you to that minimum feed on offer as well. So really helpful insights on Agriwebb. Combine that with the rotational planner. You can then map out your current rotations. You can see how much feed's available, what's your stocking rate, and make the best decisions on the farm for you guys as well. The grazing chart, historical grazing chart, will automatically populate based on your movements as well, and is really helpful when looking back historically at some of your grazing data. And questions? Does anyone have any questions on some of the things I've talked about? Yes.
Sorry, you mentioned that we need to be putting in as much data to a platform like Agriwebb as possible. One thing I hear a lot from farmers is like, I don't have time, I don't do computers, I don't want to sit at the computer and put in data. Have you got any hacks or shortcuts or tips and tricks that might help those guys out?
Oh, so many. That is such a common thing that I get told every day. It's so much harder, I don't know how to use my phone, and that's just a bit of resistance to change. And I think my best tips and tricks is when you shut the gate, after you've moved the mob, that's the perfect time to just pop it in Agriwebb, click and drag, or whatever data system you're using on your farm. It will take the same amount of time as writing it in a notebook, as when you sit in the car, you shut the gate, quickly drag it, and your job's done. It's also about having accountability on the property. If you've got a few people on your farm, whoever moves the mob is the person that puts the data in. That just ensures that everyone's doing their little bit to make up the bigger picture. I think as well there's lots of support available for all the tech tools. We have a help centre that has great articles and walks you through videos, and lots of support there for the help centre. We have an Agriwebb Academy that we do short training courses for. So you're able to just jump on and look at videos in short snippets or full courses that's going to help you use your data tools better. And we also have our support team, and you can message them and they will get back to you and give you all the tips and tricks on how to enter your data, as well as face-to-face training with our implementation consultant, Isabel. And then I also host a range of producer groups in this region where you can come in person and ask all your questions. So there's plenty of support, but the best way to do it is just little bits at a time. Start small, start with your moving your mobs on that day when you shut the gate. Next thing you know, you'll be entering treatments and pregnancy records because you're using Agriwebb or your data system every single day. And once you get confident, there's no stopping you, I don't think.
Thank you. Has anyone else got questions?
Any other questions?
I have more if we need.
Okay. I love your questions. These are great questions.
I know that collaboration is really, really important for this thing. And like another one that I know is it's so hard when you have like 20 apps on your phone for all the different things you have on your farm. You guys do a fair bit of collaboration. Could you just run through who you collaborate with and what value you've seen from it?
Absolutely. We have plenty of partners that we integrate with, and we love to see more of them. So if anyone has any recommendations at Agriwebb, we submit those in our product feedback channel. We love integrating and making partners. So FarmBot we integrate with in Who's Here Today. We also integrate with Farmo. They're also here today, and AgBot. So they're all our water monitoring solutions. What that means is you can open your Agriwebb app, look at your water tank and see those live readings. So you don't have to open 3 apps at a time to get all your information. We also integrate with Gallagher, True Test, Tapari, and I think there's one more, Shewell, for the individual system so that you can have your yards tech connect through so that you're getting all of that information connected straight through. We also integrate with SIBO Labs. So your remote pasture sensing, their pasture key system, and that will feed into Agriwebb with a dry matter available reading. And that way you can get all of your information from all your different tools that you're using on the farm through Agriwebb. So it helps a little bit in terms of what you were saying. Opening a lot of apps, it can get a bit frustrating for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a question?
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's really interesting. I was just curious, further to that integration question, about GPS ear tags. So being able to spatialize, if you like, the movement of the mobs and their feeding patterns.
Yes.
How are you able to bring that into Agriwebb? Are you able to?
Yeah.
What's the process?
At the moment, we don't integrate with any GPS tracking tools. It seems that in Australia at the moment, it's not the most popular. And I think once that demand's there and more people are using them, that opens doors for everyone. So while we don't do it at the moment, you would sort of have to have your tracking systems or your tracking tags on one platform, and then you just do those manual moves once they change paddocks. In Agriwebb, you would use that for more like detailed specific. But I have a few clients that use it for their bulls specifically. They're very high value animals will have those GPS tags, and then they do their mob movements and treatments and stuff on Agriwebb, but then they use that just for security as well. It's quite important. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was a really great presentation.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for everyone who stopped.